I am 28, a woman who has always tried to keep the peace. My brother Leo, who is 32, has always been the one to break it. Our family vacation was meant to be a fresh start, a chance for all of us to connect again after a few difficult years. I had done well at my job, received a significant bonus, and I wanted to share it. I wanted to create a happy memory. So, I offered to pay for the majority of a week-long stay at a beautiful beachfront house. I paid the large deposit. I paid the first half of the rental fee. My parents contributed a small amount, and I told Leo he only needed to chip in a few $100s. I wanted it to be easy for everyone. I wanted us to be happy together. That was my only goal. The house was everything the pictures promised. It was large, with a big kitchen and a living room that looked out over the ocean. There were 4 bedrooms. One was a magnificent master suite. It had a private balcony, a huge bathroom with a soaking tub, and floor-to-ceiling windows with a perfect view of the waves. The other rooms were nice, but simple. One was in the back of the house with a small window that faced the driveway. Another was upstairs, smaller and a bit dark. The last one was on the main floor, right next to the noisy kitchen. It was obvious which room was the prize. We all arrived around the same time. I had the keys since the rental was in my name. I opened the door and we all walked in. My mother gasped, saying how beautiful it was. My father went straight to the deck to look at the view. I felt a surge of happiness. This was going to be good. This was worth it. Leo walked past all of us. He did not say thank you. He did not comment on the house. He walked straight through the living room and opened the door to the master suite. He tossed his bag on the king-sized bed. He then walked out onto the private balcony, stretched his arms wide, and took a deep breath of the salt air. He came back inside with a smug look on his face. He looked directly at me. He did not look at our parents. He looked at me, the person who had paid for almost all of it. I deserve the beachfront house, he said. His voice was loud and clear. It was not a request. It was a declaration. I work harder than anyone. I have the most stress. I need the space to unwind. My mother immediately chimed in. Of course, dear. You take the best room. You deserve a good rest. My father nodded in agreement from the doorway. That's right, son. You relax. I stood there holding my own suitcase. I felt a familiar coldness spread through my chest. I had expected a thank you. I had expected some appreciation. Instead, I was met with entitlement. The same entitlement I had seen my entire life. I looked at my brother. I looked at my parents. No one was looking at me. They were all focused on Leo, making sure he was comfortable in the room that my money had secured. I did not say anything. I just picked up my bag and walked to the small, dark room upstairs. I closed the door behind me and sat on the edge of the bed. The silence was heavy. I could hear them laughing downstairs. I could hear Leo telling them about his very important job and all his very important stress. I had worked 60-hour weeks for months to earn that bonus. I had stress too. But my stress never seemed to matter. My contributions were just expected. I told myself to let it go. It was just a room. The point of the vacation was to be together. The room did not define the trip. I could still have a good time. I unpacked my clothes. I put my books on the nightstand. I tried to make the small room feel like a temporary home. I would not let him ruin this. I would rise above it. That was what I always did. Later that evening, we were all sitting in the living room. My mother was talking about how wonderful it was to have everyone under one roof. Leo was on his phone, barely paying attention. I was trying to read a book, but the words were just a blur. I could not shake the feeling of being invisible. Leo suddenly laughed at something on his phone. He stood up and walked out to the main deck to take a call. The glass door slid shut behind him, but it did not latch properly. I could hear his voice, faint but clear, carrying on the evening breeze. I probably should have closed the door. I should have ignored it. But I could not. Something made me stay still and listen. Yeah, the place is incredible, he was saying. I knew he was talking to his girlfriend, Sarah. And of course I got the best room, the master suite with the ocean view. It's sick. There was a pause. I imagined Sarah asking how he managed that. Oh, you know, Leo said with a chuckle. Anna is a total pushover. She paid for most of this trip anyway. It's the least she can do, right? She basically owes me for being so successful. It makes her look good to be able to treat her big brother. My book fell from my hands and hit the floor with a soft thud. A pushover. He thought I was a pushover. He thought I was paying for his vacation to make myself look good. The coldness in my chest turned into a burning fire. It was not just about the room anymore. It was about the complete and utter lack of respect. He was not just taking advantage of my generosity. He was mocking me for it. He continued talking. She'll never say anything. She just takes it. Always has. So I get a free vacation in a killer room and she gets to feel like she's a good little sister. It works out for everyone. He laughed again. It was a cruel sound. A sound that stripped away all my years of trying to be the bigger person. All my efforts to maintain peace in the family felt foolish. Peace was impossible when one person saw kindness as a weakness to be exploited. I stood up quietly. My mother looked at me. Is everything okay, dear? She asked. I forced a smile. Yes, just going to get some water, I said. My voice was steady, but my hands were shaking. I walked into the kitchen and gripped the edge of the counter. I took a deep breath. A pushover. He thought I was a pushover. I thought about all the times I had let things slide. The birthdays where he got lavish gifts while mine were an afterthought. The family dinners where his accomplishments were celebrated while mine were dismissed. The money I had loaned him that was never paid back. I had always told myself it was not worth the fight. I had told myself that family was more important than being right. But hearing his words, spoken so carelessly, so cruelly, changed everything. He did not see me as family. He saw me as a resource, a tool to be used for his own comfort and benefit. And my parents, they enabled it. They encouraged it. They had just watched him claim the room I paid for, and they had praised him for it. In that moment, a decision formed in my mind. It was a cold, hard, and clear decision. He was wrong. I was not a pushover. And I was about to prove it to him. I would not yell. I would not cry. I would not make a scene. Not yet. I would do something much, much worse. I would give him exactly what he deserved. And it would not be the beachfront room. I went back to my small, dark room. I took out my laptop and opened it. I still had the email with the rental confirmation. I read through all the details carefully. The house was managed by a local property company. Their office was about a 15-minute drive away. I looked at the check-in instructions. It mentioned that all rooms were equipped with keycard locks. Extra keycards or replacements could be issued at their main office. My name was the only name on the rental agreement. The credit card used for all payments was mine. A plan began to take shape. It was a simple plan, but it felt powerful. It felt like justice. The next morning, I woke up early. The house was quiet. I got dressed and crept downstairs. I took my car keys from the hook by the door and slipped out. The air was cool and salty. The drive to the rental office was peaceful. It gave me time to think. I replayed his words in my head. A total pushover. Each time I heard them, my resolve hardened. I was not nervous. I was calm. I felt a sense of purpose I had not felt in a very long time. The office was a small, tidy building. A woman with a friendly smile sat behind the front desk. "Good morning," she said. "How can I help you?" "Good morning," I replied, my voice even. "I'm staying at the beachfront property on Seagull Lane. My name is Anna Miller." She typed my name into her computer. "Ah, yes, Miss Miller. I see you here. Is everything all right with the house?" "The house is wonderful," I said. "There's just been a small mix-up with the room assignments. A bit of a family misunderstanding. I need to have the key cards reprogrammed." She nodded sympathetically. That happens all the time with big families. No problem at all. Which rooms need to be switched? The master suite and the back bedroom next to the laundry room, I said. The keycard that currently opens the master suite should be programmed for the back bedroom, and the keycard for the back bedroom should be programmed for the master suite. I can do that for you right now, she said. Since you're the primary renter, I just need to see your ID and the credit card on file. I handed them to her. She checked them against her records. Everything was in order. She took 2 new keycards from a box. She typed a few things into her computer, then swiped each card through a small machine on her desk. There you go, she said, handing them to me. These are now active. The old keycards for those 2 rooms will no longer work. The master suite key is the one with the blue dot. The back bedroom key has the red dot. Thank you so much, I said, taking the cards. I felt a thrill of victory. It was so easy. Could I also get a printout of the payment history for the rental? Of course, she said. She printed a document and handed it to me. It clearly showed the total cost, the deposit I paid, and the subsequent payments all coming from my credit card. It was my final piece of evidence. I folded the paper and put it in my purse along with the new key cards. I thanked her again and walked out of the office. The sun was higher in the sky now. The day felt brighter. I drove back to the house, my heart beating a steady, determined rhythm. The trap was set. Now, all I had to do was wait for the right moment to spring it. When I got back, everyone was starting to stir. My mom was making coffee in the kitchen. "Where have you been so early?" she asked. "Just went for a drive to clear my head," I said, keeping my tone light. Leo came into the kitchen a few minutes later. He was wearing expensive athletic clothes. He looked refreshed and smug. He had probably enjoyed a wonderful night's sleep in his king-sized bed, listening to the sound of the waves. "Morning," he grunted, pouring himself a large cup of coffee. He did not make eye contact with me. "Good morning, Leo," I said sweetly. "Did you sleep well?" "Like a rock," he said. "That room is amazing. The bed is perfect." I just smiled. "I'm so glad you're enjoying it." He had no idea what was coming. The thought made my smile genuine. Later that day, my cousin Chloe arrived. She was my mom's sister's daughter, and she was the closest thing I had to a real ally in the family. She was smart and funny, and most importantly, she saw Leo for exactly who he was. She gave me a big hug. "Hey, sorry I'm late. The traffic was a nightmare." "I'm so glad you're here," I said. I really was. I needed someone on my side. She took the last available room, the one on the main floor next to the kitchen. It was small and would probably be loud. "Well, this is cozy," she said, dropping her bag. "I see the king has claimed his castle." She gestured with her head towards the master suite. "You have no idea," I said under my breath. Later, while my parents and Leo were down on the beach, Chloe and I sat on the deck. I told her everything. I told her about paying for the house. I told her about Leo's immediate claim on the best room. And then I told her what I had overheard him saying on the phone. Chloe's eyes widened. "He called you a pushover?" she asked, her voice laced with anger. "After you paid for his entire vacation? That's not just entitled, that's disgusting." "I know," I said. "But the worst part is he's not entirely wrong. I have been a pushover. For years. I've let him and my parents walk all over me because I didn't want to cause trouble." "It's not your job to keep the peace, Anna," she said firmly. "It's their job to not be terrible people." I took a deep breath and then I told her my plan. I showed her the new key cards and the payment receipt. A slow grin spread across her face. "Oh, this is brilliant," she said. "This is better than brilliant. This is poetic justice." "I just need to find the right moment," I said. "It has to be public. It has to be when it will hurt his ego the most." "He's been talking about some potential business client he wants to impress," Chloe said, tapping her chin. "He was mentioning it to your dad earlier. Something about showing the guy his summer place to prove how successful he is." My eyes lit up. That was it. That was the perfect moment, using my generosity to fuel his own lies and ambition. The humiliation would be exquisite. He's inviting a client here? I asked. Without asking me? The person who is actually paying for the house? Of course he is, Chloe said, rolling her eyes. That's Leo 101. Your assets are his assets in his mind. The anger I felt was sharp and clean. He was not just taking a room. He was trying to use my life as a prop for his own. He was going to learn a very hard lesson. For the next day, I played the part of the dutiful, quiet sister. I helped my mom with meals. I went for walks on the beach with my dad. I was polite to Leo, even when he made condescending comments about my job or my car. He was completely oblivious. He saw my quietness as submission. He had no idea it was the calm before the storm. I needed to swap the keycards without him noticing. My chance came that afternoon. He announced he was going for a run on the beach. He left his room, closing the door behind him. He left his wallet and his keycard on the dresser, just inside the door. He never locked it when he was in the house. He was arrogant. He assumed no one would dare touch his things. I waited until I heard the front door close. I looked around. My parents were reading in the living room. Chloe gave me a subtle nod from the kitchen. I walked quickly and quietly to the master suite. My heart was pounding. I opened the door, slipped inside, and went straight to the dresser. There it was. The key card to the master suite. I took the new key card with the red dot out of my pocket. I placed it where the old one had been. I took the original master suite key card. I then went to the small, miserable room in the back of the house, the one next to the laundry room. I opened the door. It smelled faintly of detergent. I took the key card that was on the dresser in there and put the original master suite key card in its place. I now had the final piece, the key card with the blue dot. The key to my room. I slipped it into my pocket. The switch was complete. It took less than a minute. I walked back out to the deck, my hands trembling slightly. Chloe was there. "Did you do it?" she whispered. I nodded, a smile touching my lips for the first time that day. "It's done. Now we wait," she said, her eyes gleaming with excitement. We did not have to wait long. The next afternoon, Leo announced that his client, a man named Mr. Thompson, would be stopping by for a drink. "I want everyone on their best behavior," Leo said, looking pointedly at me. "This is a very important meeting for me. I'm trying to close a huge deal." "We wouldn't dream of embarrassing you, Leo," I said, my voice dripping with false sincerity. He did not catch the sarcasm. Mr. Thompson arrived at 4 o'clock. He was an older man in an expensive suit. He looked serious and important. Leo was in full schmooze mode. He was laughing too loudly and patting the man on the back. "Welcome, welcome," Leo boomed. "Welcome to my family's summer home. We come here every year." A lie. This was the first time. He gave Mr. Thompson a tour of the main floor. He pointed out the view. He offered him a drink. All the while, he was building up to the grand finale. I could see it in his eyes. "And now," Leo said, with a grand gesture, "let me show you the best part of the house. My suite. The view from the balcony is to die for." This was it, the moment I had been waiting for. Chloe caught my eye from across the room. She gave me a tiny, almost imperceptible wink. My parents were beaming with pride. They were so proud of their successful son, showing off his beautiful life. Leo led Mr. Thompson to the door of the master suite. I stood up and walked a little closer, wanting a good view of the show. "It's really something," Leo was saying. "I find the sound of the ocean helps me think. It's where I do my best work." He held up his key card, the one with the red dot that I had planted, and swiped it through the lock. The light on the lock blinked red. Access denied. Leo frowned. He swiped it again. Red light. Access denied. "Huh," he said, trying to sound casual. "These key cards can be a bit finicky." He tried a third time. And a fourth. The red light just kept blinking. Mr. Thompson was starting to look awkward. My parents were looking confused. "What's wrong, Leo?" my mother asked. "Nothing, Mom. The damn key is just acting up," he snapped. His composure was starting to crack. He began jiggling the handle. He pushed against the door with his shoulder. It was locked solid. "Is there a problem?" Mr. Thompson asked, his voice polite but cool. "No, no problem at all," Leo said through gritted teeth. He was starting to sweat. He turned and glared at me. "Did you do something to this lock?" "Why would I do something to your lock, Leo?" I asked calmly. "It's your room, isn't it?" He was getting frantic now. He started banging on the door with his fist. "Let me in. Open the door." And then I did. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the key card with the blue dot, and swiped it through the lock. The light blinked green. I turned the handle and the door swung open. I stepped back and gestured for him to look inside. I had spent the morning moving my things in. My suitcase was on the luggage rack. My book was on the nightstand. My laptop was on the desk. I was sitting in one of the chairs on the balcony, holding a cup of tea, when they had arrived. I had slipped out the side door of the balcony to be there for the main event. Leo stared, his mouth hanging open. He looked at my things. He looked at me. He looked at Mr. Thompson. The color drained from his face. "What are you doing in my room?" he whispered. His voice was a choked, furious sound. I took a sip of my tea. I looked him right in the eye. My voice was no longer sweet or quiet. It was clear and strong. "This is not your room, Leo," I said. "This is my room." He finally exploded. "What is the meaning of this? You stole my room. I told you I needed this room." "You didn't ask, Leo," I corrected him. "You declared. You walked in and you took it." "I deserve it," he shouted. His face was red and blotchy. "Do you?" I asked. I reached into my purse and pulled out the folded piece of paper. "The payment history." "Do you deserve it more than the person who paid for it?" I unfolded the paper and held it up for everyone to see. "This is the rental agreement for this house. My name is on it. This is the payment history. It shows that I paid the $5,000 deposit. It shows I paid the next installment of $4,000. It shows that I have paid for 70% of this vacation. You paid $500, Leo. That is less than 5%. A stunned silence fell over the room. My parents looked horrified. Mr. Thompson looked like he wanted the ground to swallow him whole. Leo just stared at the paper, speechless. "You called me a pushover, Leo," I continued, my voice ringing with a newfound strength. "You told your girlfriend that I paid for this trip to make myself look good. You said I was a good little sister who would just take it. You were wrong." I turned to my parents. "And you watched him do it. You encouraged him. You told him he deserved the best without a single thought for me. You have always done this. You have always put his wants above my needs." My mother started to cry. "Anna, please, not in front of company." "He is not company, Mother," I said, gesturing to Mr. Thompson. "He is Leo's business client, the one Leo invited to my house, the house I paid for without my permission, so he could lie and pretend this was his life. So he could use me and my money to close a deal." Mr. Thompson cleared his throat. "I think I should be going," he said stiffly. He looked at Leo with an expression of pure disgust. "Our deal is off, Leo. I don't do business with liars." He turned and walked out of the house. The sound of the front door closing was like a gunshot. Leo let out a roar of pure rage. "You ruined everything," he screamed at me. "You did this on purpose. You sabotaged me." "No, Leo," I said, my voice dropping to a calm, icy level. "You did this to yourself. You were so sure I was a pushover that you never stopped to think I might have a breaking point. You have finally found it." I pointed to the small, sad-looking door down the hall. "Your key card? The one you've been trying to use opens that room. The one next to the laundry. I believe that room is more in line with your actual contribution to this vacation. He looked like he was going to hit me. My father stepped between us. That's enough, both of you, he said. But his voice lacked conviction. He looked old and defeated. Leo just stood there, breathing heavily. He was completely and utterly defeated. The smug, entitled man from the day before was gone. In his place was a sputtering, humiliated child. He had lost his room. He had lost his business deal. And worst of all, for him, he had lost face in front of the entire family. He turned without another word, snatched his bag from the floor of my room, and stomped down the hall. He swiped his keycard at the back bedroom door. The light blinked green. He slammed the door so hard the walls shook. I stood there for a moment, the adrenaline slowly fading. I looked at my parents. My mother was sobbing quietly. My father just shook his head, looking at the floor. Chloe came and stood beside me. She put a hand on my shoulder. "You did it," she whispered. I took a deep breath of the ocean air. "Yes," I said. I did. I had not just reclaimed a room, I had reclaimed myself. The rest of the vacation would be tense and uncomfortable. But as I walked out onto my private balcony and looked at the endless ocean, I felt a sense of peace I had not felt in years. The price of peace in my family had been my self-respect. I was no longer willing to pay it. The silence that followed was thick and heavy. My mother sniffled into a tissue. My father stared out the window, his back to me. They did not know what to say. For their entire lives, the family dynamic had operated on a simple, unspoken rule. Leo gets what Leo wants. I had just shattered that rule into a million pieces, and they were left standing in the wreckage, unsure of how to proceed. "Anna, how could you?" My mother finally said, her voice trembling. "You embarrassed your brother. You embarrassed all of us." I turned to face her. I was no longer angry. I was just tired. "He embarrassed himself, Mom. He lied. He used me. He was going to use this entire family as props in his little play. I just pulled back the curtain." "But to do it like that," my father said, finally turning around. "In front of a business associate, you cost him a major deal." "Did I?" I asked. "Or did his own dishonesty and arrogance cost him the deal?" "Mr. Thompson said he doesn't do business with liars. It seems to me that he made his own decision based on the man he saw Leo to be." I felt a clarity that was almost dizzying. For so long, I had accepted their narrative. I had accepted the blame for any conflict. If I was upset, I was being too sensitive. If I wanted something for myself, I was being selfish. If I pointed out an injustice, I was starting a fight. I refused to accept that narrative anymore. "I am not going to apologize for this," I stated. It was not a defiant shout, but a quiet, firm fact. "I will not apologize for standing up for myself. I will not apologize for refusing to be disrespected in a house I paid for." Chloe squeezed my shoulder. "She's right, Aunt Carol," she said to my mother. "You know she is. You've seen how Leo has been treating her for years." My mother just shook her head, unable to respond. The truth was too uncomfortable for her to face. It would mean admitting her own part in it, her own failure to protect one child while indulging the other. The rest of the evening was a miserable affair. We ate dinner in near silence. Leo never came out of his room. I could hear his muffled sounds of frustration through the wall, the occasional thump or angry curse. My parents picked at their food, occasionally shooting me looks that were a mixture of anger and confusion. I ate my meal calmly. I was not going to let them make me feel guilty. After dinner, I went to my room. My beautiful, spacious, oceanfront room. I opened the balcony doors and let the sound of the waves fill the space. It was the sound of freedom. I sat out there for hours, just breathing. I was processing the events of the day, the years of frustration that had led to this point. I felt a profound sense of relief. It was as if a heavy weight I had been carrying my whole life had finally been lifted. The next day, the tension in the house was even worse. My father tried to talk to me. He found me on the beach walking along the shoreline. Anna, he started, his tone gentle. I understand you were upset, but family is about forgiveness. Your brother is hurting. Is he? I asked, not stopping my walk. Is he hurting, or is his pride wounded? There's a difference. He made a mistake, my father insisted. He was arrogant, but you humiliated him. There had to have been a better way to handle this. I finally stopped and looked at him. I tried the better way for 28 years, Dad. The better way was me being quiet. The better way was me just accepting things to keep the peace. The better way was me loaning him money he never paid back. The better way was me letting him take credit for my ideas. Where did the better way get me? It got me to a place where my own brother called me a pushover he could walk all over, and you and Mom stood by and let him do it. He had no answer for that. He just looked out at the ocean, his face etched with a sadness I had never seen before. We love you both equally, he said, but his words sounded hollow, even to him. I know you love me, I replied, and it was true. I did not doubt their love. I doubted their fairness. But you don't treat us equally. You have never treated us equally. You manage Leo's feelings, and you expect me to manage my own. That's not equality. It's enablement. I left him there on the beach and walked back to the house alone. It was a painful conversation, but it was a necessary one. The old patterns were breaking, and it was going to be messy. Later that day, Leo finally emerged from his room. He looked terrible. His eyes were puffy, and he had not shaved. He walked into the kitchen where I was making a sandwich. He did not look at me. He opened the refrigerator and took out a bottle of water. The silence was deafening. I decided to break it. Are you planning on staying for the rest of the week? I asked. He slammed the refrigerator door shut. I don't know, he muttered. Why? Do you want to kick me out of my tiny, pathetic room, too? No, I said calmly. You're welcome to stay in the room that your contribution paid for. I just wanted to know what the plan was. He finally looked at me, his eyes filled with a venomous rage. You think you're so clever, don't you? You think you've won. This wasn't a game, Leo, I said. This was about respect, something you have never, ever shown me. Respect? He scoffed. You want respect? You get respect by earning it, by being successful, not by crying about which bedroom you get on vacation. I could not help but laugh. It was a short, bitter sound. Successful? You mean like how you were trying to lie to a client to make yourself seem successful? Is that how you earn respect, Leo? He took a step towards me. You have no idea what it's like in my world, he snarled. The pressure I'm under. You have your cozy little job and your cozy little life. You don't know what real stress is. My cozy little job paid for this entire house, Leo, I reminded him. My cozy little job paid for the roof over your head right now. So maybe you should show a little bit of respect for it. He was speechless again. He just stared at me, his fists clenched. He was so used to winning every argument, so used to people backing down. He did not know how to handle someone who refused to be intimidated by his anger. You've changed, he finally said, his voice quiet. Yes, I replied. I have. He turned and left the kitchen, and for the rest of the day, he avoided me completely. The atmosphere was so toxic that Chloe and I decided to escape. We went out to a local restaurant for dinner, just the two of us. So, how does it feel? She asked once we had ordered. Strange, I admitted. Good, but strange. I feel like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like my mom is going to come in and demand I apologize to make Leo feel better. Let her try, Chloe said, taking a sip of her water. You can't go back now, Anna. You've set a new boundary. The hard part is going to be enforcing it. I know, I said. This isn't just about this one vacation. This is about the rest of our lives. Christmas, birthdays, family dinners. Everything is going to be different now. Different is good, she said. The way it was before wasn't working for you. It was slowly crushing you. She was right. I had felt myself shrinking over the years, making myself smaller to avoid conflict, to make sure Leo had enough space to be the center of the universe. I was done shrinking. When we got back to the house, my mother was waiting up for me. She was sitting in the dark living room. "We need to talk," she said, her voice strained. I sat down on the couch opposite her. "Okay," I said. "Your brother is packing his things," she told me. "He's leaving in the morning." I did not say anything. I just waited. "This has torn our family apart, Anna," she said, and this time there were real tears in her eyes. "I don't know how we fix this." "I don't think I'm the one who needs to fix it, Mom," I said gently. "Leo made his choices. He chose to be arrogant. He chose to be disrespectful. He chose to lie. Now he is choosing to leave instead of facing the consequences of his actions. Those are not my choices." "He's your brother," she cried. "You're supposed to love each other." "I do love him," I said. "But loving someone doesn't mean you have to let them treat you badly. Loving someone doesn't mean you have to set yourself on fire to keep them warm. I have been burning for a long time, Mom. I'm done." We talked for over an hour. It was the most honest conversation we had ever had. I told her about all the little cuts and bruises from over the years, the constant feeling of being second best, the exhaustion of always having to be the easy child. She listened, and for the first time, I think she really heard me. She did not make excuses for Leo. She did not defend his behavior. She just listened. By the end of it, she was crying again, but for a different reason. "I'm so sorry, Anna," she whispered. "I'm so sorry. I never saw. I never wanted to see." It was not a complete absolution, but it was a start. It was a crack in the foundation of their denial. The next morning, Leo left. He packed his car in silence. He did not say goodbye to me. He gave my parents a stiff, formal hug, and then he drove away. The house felt lighter, cleaner, as soon as his car disappeared down the road. The last few days of the vacation were quiet. My parents were subdued, but they were also different. They were more attentive to me. They asked me questions about my life, my job, my friends. They seemed to be trying to see me as a person, not just as a supporting character in Leo's story. My father and I went for another walk on the beach the day before we were set to leave. "Your mother and I have been talking," he said. "We've made a lot of mistakes." "I know," I said. "We're going to try to do better," he said, looking me in the eye. "We're going to insist that Leo gets some help, some counseling, and we're going to go with him, as a family." I was surprised. "Really?" "Yes," he said. "What you said, about us managing his feelings, it was true. We've been so afraid of his anger, his moods, that we've sacrificed your happiness to keep him calm. That's not right, and it stops now." It was more than I had ever hoped for. A real acknowledgement. A real plan for change. When we packed up to leave, I took one last look at the master suite. It was just a room, but it had become a symbol of so much more. It was the battlefield where I had finally fought for myself, and I had won. On the drive home, I felt a sense of quiet satisfaction. The road ahead for my family was going to be long and difficult. Trust needed to be rebuilt. New, healthier patterns needed to be formed. But for the first time, I felt hopeful. A week later, I was back in my own apartment. I got a call from an unknown number. It was Mr. Thompson. "Miss Miller," he said, his voice professional. "I wanted to apologize for the awkwardness of our meeting last week." "It's not you who should be apologizing," I said. "Perhaps not," he said. "But I also wanted to say something else." I was impressed. It takes a great deal of courage to do what you did, to stand up to your family like that and speak the truth. "Thank you," I said, surprised. "I did some digging into your brother's company after I left," he continued. "It turns out his claims of success were greatly exaggerated. The deal he was proposing was built on a foundation of lies. You didn't just save yourself from disrespect, Miss Miller. You saved me from making a very bad investment. He then said something that completely floored me. My company is looking to expand a department that aligns perfectly with your professional experience. I saw your profile online. I was wondering if you might be interested in discussing an opportunity. I was stunned. I did not know what to say. We set up a meeting for the following week. It turned out to be a dream job, a senior position with more responsibility, better pay, and a team of people who were professional and respectful. I accepted the offer on the spot. My life had changed in more ways than one. I had set a boundary with my family, and in doing so, I had opened a door to a new future for myself, a future where I was the main character in my own story. My relationship with my parents is still a work in progress, but it is better. They are trying. They go to therapy, sometimes with Leo, sometimes without. He has not apologized to me yet, and I am not sure if he ever will, but he no longer holds any power over me. His anger and his entitlement are his problems to solve, not mine to manage. Sometimes I think back to that moment, standing in the doorway of that beautiful room. I remember the look on Leo's face, the shock and rage. And I remember the feeling of peace that came after. It was not a victory over him. It was a victory for me. I finally learned that my worth is not determined by how much I give to others, but by how much I respect myself. And that is a lesson worth more than any beachfront view. The months that followed were a period of adjustment. The new job was demanding but incredibly fulfilling. For the first time, I was working in an environment where my contributions were not just noticed, but celebrated. My new boss, Mr. Thompson, became a mentor. He valued directness and honesty, qualities he had first seen in me during that disastrous confrontation at the vacation house. It was ironic that Leo's attempt to use me to get ahead had inadvertently launched my own career to new heights. My family dynamic continued to shift in slow, sometimes painful ways. The weekly family phone calls, which used to be dominated by Leo's monologues about his job, became more balanced. My parents made a conscious effort to ask me about my work, my life. At first, it felt forced and awkward, like they were following a script from their therapist. But over time, it started to feel more natural. They were learning to see me. Leo and I did not speak for almost 6 months. He refused to answer my calls or texts. According to my parents, he was struggling. His business was failing. And the loss of the Thompson deal had been a significant blow. He had been forced to downsize and had lost the respect of several colleagues who had heard about the incident. Humiliation, it turned out, was a powerful motivator for change, but a painful one. The first time we saw each other again was at Thanksgiving. I was nervous about going. Chloe had called me the night before. "Are you ready for this?" she asked. "I don't know," I confessed. "What if it's just like it was before? What if they all just fall back into the old patterns?" "Then you leave," she said simply. "You get in your car and you drive away. You have the power now, Anna. Don't ever forget that." She was right. I walked into my parents' house with a newfound sense of self-assurance. I was not the same person who had quietly accepted the worst room 6 months ago. Leo was already there. He looked thinner, and the arrogant swagger was gone. He was quiet, almost withdrawn. We made eye contact across the room, and for a moment I saw a flicker of the old resentment in his eyes. But then it was gone, replaced by something else. Weariness, maybe. Dinner was tense. The conversation was stilted. But there was a notable difference. When my dad asked Leo how his business was going, Leo gave a short, non-committal answer. Then, my dad immediately turned to me and asked, "Anna, tell us about that new project you're leading. It sounds fascinating." Leo's head snapped up. He looked at my dad, then at me. It was a small thing, a simple act of conversational balance, but it was revolutionary for our family. I saw the surprise on Leo's face. He was no longer the sole focus of everyone's attention. After dinner, as I was helping my mom clear the table, Leo came into the kitchen. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" he asked. His voice was low. We went out to the back porch. The air was cold and crisp. He started, struggling with the words. I've been doing a lot of thinking. About the vacation. About everything. I waited, not wanting to make it easy for him. What you did, he said, shaking his head. It was harsh, but I get it. I mean, I'm starting to get it. The therapy is helping. What are you trying to say, Leo? I asked. He finally looked at me. I'm sorry, he said. The words were quiet, but they felt heavy. I'm sorry for how I treated you. That day, and all the years before it, I was a jerk. I was entitled. I took you for granted. I'm sorry. It was the apology I never thought I would hear. A part of me wanted to reject it, to tell him it was too little, too late. But looking at him, I saw that he was sincere. He was a man humbled by his own failures, forced to confront the person he had become. Thank you, I said. I appreciate you saying that. It was not a magic wand. It did not erase years of hurt, but it was a beginning, a real one. We stood in silence for another minute. So, your new job, he said, with Thompson. That must be weird. It's the best job I've ever had, I replied honestly. He nodded slowly. A faint, sad smile touched his lips. Of course it is, he said. You earned it. We went back inside, and for the first time I could remember, there was a sense of real, fragile peace between us. Not the fake peace of me suppressing my feelings, but the kind of peace that comes from truth and accountability. The holidays came and went. Our family continued to navigate its new reality. There were still moments of tension, still times when my parents would slip into old habits of catering to Leo. But now I had a voice, and I used it. If I felt overlooked, I said so. If I disagreed with something, I stated my opinion. I did not need to shout or make a scene. I just needed to speak my truth calmly and confidently. They were learning to listen. A year after the fateful vacation, I took my own trip. I booked a small, beautiful suite at a hotel overlooking the ocean in a different state. I went by myself. For a week, I read books, walked on the beach, and reflected on how much my life had changed. On the last day, I sat on my private balcony watching the sunset. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Leo. It was a picture of him and my parents. They were smiling. The caption read, "Thinking of you. We're proud of you." I smiled. The scars were still there, but they were healing. By choosing to respect myself, I had taught my family how to respect me too. The beachfront house was no longer a source of pain. It was a reminder. A reminder that sometimes you have to be willing to cause a storm to find the calm. And the view from the other side was more beautiful than I could have ever imagined. The journey of rebuilding was not linear. There were setbacks. There was a weekend, a few months after Thanksgiving, when my parents called me in a panic. Leo's business had finally gone under. He was devastated, and they were worried about him. He needs his family right now, Anna, my mother said, her voice fraught with anxiety. He needs your support. I felt a familiar pull. The old instinct to rush in, to fix things, to smooth over the rough edges of my brother's life. But I paused. I took a breath. I support him, Mom, I said carefully. I am here for him as his sister, but I am not going to bail him out financially. I am not going to solve his problems for him. He needs to learn how to stand on his own feet. It was a difficult conversation. My parents, in their fear, wanted to revert to the old ways. They wanted to cushion Leo's fall. I had to hold the boundary for all of us. I explained that supporting him meant encouraging his resilience, not funding his irresponsibility. It meant listening to his fears, not writing him a check. I did call Leo. I listened as he vented his anger and his despair. I did not offer solutions. I did not say, "I told you so." I just listened. "I don't know what to do," he said, his voice cracking. I've lost everything. You haven't lost everything, I said. You've lost a business. It's not the same thing. You can rebuild. You can start over. How? He asked, a genuine question from a man who had never had to truly start from scratch. One step at a time, I said. And this time you do it honestly. You do it with integrity. It was a turning point for him. Without the safety net of my money or my parents' coddling, he was forced to confront his reality. He got a regular job. It was not glamorous. It was a sales position at a company where he was just one of many employees, not the boss. It was humbling. And it was exactly what he needed. He started to change in more profound ways. He started volunteering at a local charity. He began to talk about things other than himself. He asked me about my life, and he seemed genuinely interested in the answers. He was becoming a person I could actually like, not just love out of familial obligation. Our relationship slowly transformed from one of rivalry and resentment to one of tentative friendship. We started having lunch once a month. We talked about our jobs, our fears, our hopes. We were two adults meeting on equal ground for the first time in our lives. During one of these lunches, he told me something that surprised me. You know, he said, for the longest time I was jealous of you. I almost choked on my water. Jealous of me? Leo, you had everything. You were the golden child. Everyone adored you. That's what it looked like from the outside, he said, shaking his head. But you had something I didn't. You had yourself. You always knew who you were. You were quiet and steady, and you had this inner strength. I was always performing. I was always trying to be the successful son, the impressive brother. I built my entire identity on this idea of being the best. When it all came crashing down, I realized I had nothing else. It was the most vulnerable I had ever seen him be. It made me see him not as a monster, but as a flawed human being who had been just as trapped by our family's dynamic as I was, just in a different way. You're building something real now, I told him, and that's worth more than any business deal. As the years passed, the new normal became just normal. Family gatherings were no longer a source of anxiety, but of genuine, if sometimes complicated, affection. My parents learned to be parents to both of their children, and my brother and I learned to be siblings. I continued to thrive in my career. I was promoted to a director position at Mr. Thompson's company. I bought my own apartment, a beautiful place with a small balcony where I grew flowers. I was happy. I was content in my own skin. One summer, about 5 years after the incident at the beachfront house, my parents proposed another family vacation. We'll pay for it all this time, my dad said quickly. A nice, quiet cabin in the mountains, no big suites. All the rooms are the same size. We all laughed. We went on the trip. It was calm and peaceful. We hiked. We cooked together. We played board games. On the last night, we were all sitting around a fire pit, looking up at the stars. Leo turned to me. Hey, Anna, he said. Thanks. For what? I asked. For everything, he said, his voice sincere. For not giving up on me, but mostly for switching the keys. I smiled at him. You're welcome. It was a strange thing to be thanked for an act that had felt so much like revenge at the time. But he was right. It was not just an act of revenge. It was an act of liberation. It had freed me from being a pushover. And in a strange, roundabout way, it had freed him from the prison of his own ego. We sat there in comfortable silence, the four of us, a family that had been broken and put back together again. We were not perfect, but we were real. And we were finally, truly, at peace. The fire crackled, sending sparks up into the vast, dark sky. I thought about the girl I used to be, the one who would have done anything to avoid a conflict. I was so grateful she had found the courage to fight back. I was so grateful she had learned that sometimes the only way to keep the peace is to be willing to disrupt it. And in doing so, she had not destroyed her family. She had saved it.